Hello, hello. Buenos dias. ¿Cómo estás? How y'all doing? Ça va? Sumole? All that. And welcome to another episode of Musso. We are your hosts, Hadi, Ngone, and Gemma, until they decide to fire me. On this podcast, we share a microphone for fresh conversations on current affairs and women's realities beyond a single story. So, y'all, how y'all doing? Gemma?
I'm tired again. We're back to the I am tired. Work is kicking my butt. Third wave of COVID in this country.
Bro, I saw the numbers.
I was hoping I wouldn't go back to COVID work. Me?
If wishes were horses.
COVID is kicking my butt big time. But yeah.
Lo
here.
siento, mami.
What does that mean?
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
Good, how are you?
I think after this week, I've come to the realization, I'm meant for the baby girl life, not for the 9-to-5 life.
I think you have this realization every week, though.
Yes.
I just tweeted I deserve the soft life.
I saw that.
But on the positive side, though, so a few weeks ago, I was talking, and I got a message on LinkedIn from this guy, and he was like, "Oh, Pfizer is providing scholarships for 50 young people for the One Young World Summit." So it's basically focusing on people who've been doing work around COVID, and I've gone through your profile. I think you're a good fit, blah blah blah. So apply, and I forgot about it until I think an hour before the deadline. So I just submitted, and so I got selected. Yeah. So
Okay.
So you're talking to a Pfizer scholar at this year's One Young World
Where
Summit.
is it gonna be?
So it's in Germany, but then I wouldn't be going. So it's I'm participating digitally.
Okay.
Or virtually, whatever
Dang,
they
I was
call
gonna pull
it.
up. I don't even
You
like
know?
Germany, but I would have pulled up.
Yeah.
So I'm participating virtually because it's happening this month anyways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think because of COVID, they wouldn't want to, because the scholarship is COVID focused, they wouldn't want to encourage travel.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think there's limited delegates this time even. Okay. So we had a welcome call yesterday, and it was really nice to just have people tell you, "Oh, you are here because of all the work you've been doing." So yeah, shout outs to my
That
cum
is
stuff.
big.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So on the positive front, yes. On the positive COVID front, that is not test
Oh my
related.
guys are ballers.
So,
Hey.
levels.
Oh, by the way, y'all can ask me how my research is going. Now.
How is your research going, Hadi?
It's going great.
I
I've
mean,
read-
I'm not modest. Apart from you, that you don't respect enough to interview us.
So I'm supposed to be doing between 30 and 40, right?
Mhm.
So initially, because I was so frustrated, I'm like, the minute I hit 30, I'm done. But I'm already at 32, and I have like 10 more at least scheduled,
Including us.
including y'all.
Okay.
So
Wow.
So you have to 8.
So you're
outside
not
of
dropping
us.
out.
yes, so I'm not dropping out, guys.
Amen.
I know last week that was the that was the mood last week, but I'm just gonna give.
I'm not a supervisor. I didn't tell you the key. What the hell is wrong with this girl?
No, last week I had no hope.
Yeah.
I was
Last week you
done.
were over it.
I was done.
I'm going home. Imagine it.
I'm still going home though. You know, the only thing going back to England is me at this point.
Yeah, it's coming home. It's coming home.
The only thing going back to England. But even speaking of last week and our conversation around ignoring men being silly, today I was telling Goni I had the same exact, well, not the same exact experience, but I had something similar where I was out interviewing someone at a cafe, and then the guy next to her kept basically, before I got there, was talking about how feminists and just women that do work in gender are the reason that women that are not educated, quote unquote, get beat up. Because we tell them all these things and then they go and then they try and attack their husbands. So when I came, he tried to continue that conversation. I tried to interject and say something one time, and then he was like, no, I'm not done talking. You have to wait till I'm done talking. So because of that, I just stopped talking to him completely, and I was eating my bagel, enjoying my life. Mungewa, neko diduga sino pabisa. Next thing you know, he just gets up and walks out of the cafe.
Ignore on fleek.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
It was
It's
wonderful.
a good feeling.
Imagine asking someone to stop talking. Beyonga pare.
Yeah.
Audacity.
Yeah.
Audacity.
Saying it.
And he literally
It's the year
was
of
like,
audacity.
because women that are not educated, you people are the reason that they get into trouble and have all these problems. And it was so condescending, and it was colonizer speech. It was extremely condescending. It was just rude, and it was so many things. And I'm just like, I can't believe that, like, you know, these are all justifications that men are giving when they're
Instead
being
of,
abused.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm beating you up because you know your rights and you're able to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sadness, madness.
But anyways, guys, today we're talking about a topic that I actually really love, and it's so good that I'm in a great mood because I'm talking about something that is just this love. What's not to love about love? And we're starting it off with a quote from the OG, my favorite person that I just want to meet one day, which is Bell Hooks.
Again.
I think, yeah. I feel like every time like I host or something.
This is the third time we're using a quote.
I'm very obsessed with bell hooks. So this quote goes, dreaming that love will save us, solve all our problems, or provide a steady state of bliss or security only keeps us stuck in wishful fantasy, undermining the real power of love, which is to transform us. How y'all feel?
Wow.
Loved and transformed.
I'm actually just getting to read it since we chose it, and yeah, wow.
I'm telling you, she's an OG for a reason, and let me just plug it in real quick. If y'all haven't read All About Love, please read All About Love.
I have it on my to-be-read list.
I'm begging you.
Yeah, I'll read it this year.
I'll add it to
I
mine.
promise, I'll read it this year.
As I think I tell everyone this, like anyone I meet and they ask for a book suggestion. Even last year I was on a podcast about books and they asked me like the one book that I could never part with, and it's All About Love.
And I see a lot of positive reviews as well on Twitter about it. So learn what I'm a download, so I'll read it this year. I promise.
Especially
And I'll come back to you and let you know what I
Please,
think.
thank you. And especially from like a very feminist perspective about love, because I feel like we once you step into this feminist arena, you have this idea or you're taught that you have to hate men. And I think that's also why I'm always like, men are not the issue, it's patriarchy. And it's these systems that, that force men to not even know how to love themselves, let alone love women or other people and someone else. Yeah. So I guess, Jama,
Wretch!
I'm trying to be serious for once.
Listen, I'm trying to do a light episode this time. I'm a son heavy, trauma-filled episodes. Please, just make this one light and loving.
But I'm going to start with you. So, with this whole love and romance thing, as a married woman that is a feminist, tell us more about, how love and feminisms can do the coming together and merging and becoming one in union and love.
I don't know. I'm just existing really in my love. I'm just existing in my love. But yeah, I think at different stages of your life, you really understand love from different perspectives, right? And I think the more we grow, if there's one thing that feminism has done for me, it's understand love outside of romantic relationships. Because then again, like you said, every time we talk love, every time we talk relationships, it's always looked at from the angle of romance, right? And not a lot of it. I think we've spoken about this before on the podcast around how not enough attention is given to platonic love and platonic relationships. So for me, it's really understanding love from different circles and different spheres. So what does it look like in family? What does it look like with your friends? What does it look like in your community? What does it look like with your partner? Where the romance comes in? What does it look like for people who are not in any of these relationships but also have a lot of love to give and want a lot of love in return? So for me, really, like they say, it's what makes the world go around. And it's basically defining what it means for you, right? And I don't know if you need to actively seek it out or whatever, but like the quote says, it's something that transforms us. And I think a lot of the time we look to love as a solution for a lot of problems. And sometimes I think we get disappointed when that doesn't happen. But then when you look at it from a transformative point, I think that's what feminist loving really does. It allows you to see things from beyond just a single angle that we've been taught, forever. The kind of love that you should always aspire to, which takes all of your time and your attention and your resources, as opposed to others that can easily be neglected. So yeah.
I love that. Ngone?
What can I say after that? What can be said? But yeah, I think, to me, I think love is something that, true love, whether it's platonic or romantic, is something that finds you, right? I don't think it's something that you go out to look for and then you find it. It's something that finds you, and it always comes to you at a point when you least expect it. So you look at...
Or when you most need it.
Yes. When you most...
triggered.
Yeah, some people are triggered, eh? But yeah, for me, yes.
It's true. Sorry to
It is true. It is true, because you look at your friendships, first of all. How did you become friends with these people to a point where, you can't see your life without them. Yeah, you've gotten to a point where you've built this relationship with this person that, you know, you talk to them every day. They're your go-to when you need someone to comfort you, especially when you're feeling really low. So yeah, it's something that comes to you, and it always comes to you when you need it.
It's true. I remember the first time I saw a video of Maluma, and I was just like, wow, this is it.
Who is Maluma?
My husband?
When Michael B. Jordan dumped
Oh, it's
her.
changed.
Oh, he was even there before Michael B. Jordan, honestly. It was
Hadi, you only
a
had time
song-
for him after MBJ dumped you for long.
I really
Hadi.
thought that she
No.
was gonna bring the positive vibes on this episode, but it's
No.
clear she is really just stuck on her dreams and. But
We're
carry on.
We're discussing love, and I'm telling you people
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
the man, one of the men that is important. In
Is
life.
it
he
when
know
he
you
saw you
exist?
or when you saw him?
When I
Does he
saw
know
him,
you
I need to clarify that what I believe is what matters, you know.
Sure.
So
We
if I
respect that,
decide
sis.
that I love this person, then that's all that matters.
Okay.
Thank
Wow.
you very much.
I respect that.
Okay.
But I'm okay. Back to seriousness, huh?
I'm glad you know that was not serious.
Back to seriousness. I really love how both of you described it, and it's so important because I always say that when it comes to love, like platonic love and friendship and all of that, that's the foundation for the basis of all of our lives and all of our relationships. Because even if you were to get into a romantic relationship, it's not going to get to where it needs to be if you're not friends with that person first. If there's not a degree of care, of respect, of
Yep.
trust, of mutual, just a lot of mutual stuff of yirmande between the both of you. If that's not there, then the relationship is not going to go as far as it needs to go or as far as it should go. And even if it doesn't go far and those things are still there, you just know that it's run its course and sesa, and then you both still have some kind of degree of respect and love for each other, because love transforms.
Yeah.
So love doesn't just transform a person, but love can transform into many different things. So you can love someone today as a brother, tomorrow they can be more than that, or you can start off as loving them as more than that, being married, and then after that, once you get a divorce, you two are best friends.
Yeah.
It's just that, what's it, Einstein's theory of whatever, when, matter changes. It doesn't, it's not constant, but it doesn't get destroyed. So it's the same thing.
But I agree with that, because even you as a person, you're transforming. So it's like what we talked about, relationships, how your relationships with people change. Even in a romantic relationship, right? You get into a romantic relationship with this person, you like them, and eventually it transforms. So even where you are together for the next 20 years, the kind of love you have for each other transforms.
Yep.
It changes from, lust, to love, to something that is even beyond that. Something, you see older couples who've been together for a long time and they look like they're
Brother and
their
sister,
brother and
yeah.
sister, like their cousins. So it transforms in itself. You're right.
I'm gonna look for this one quote that basically sums all that up. I can't find it yet, so we'll move on, but then once I find it, we'll come back to it.
I think it's also tied to the things around people saying, I married my best friend. Stuff like that, right? And even outside of marriage, whatever partnerships people are having, I am with my best friend. Because I think people also recognize you can't... So like they say, love is not enough,
No,
right? So it
not.
depends on how you understand it and what context it is and all of that. But sometimes love is not enough because when things, it's not always rosy, it's not always peaches and cream, right? And so when it gets hard, what's really there holding you together? Sometimes it's not the love. Sometimes it's the friendship, it's the care, it's the respect, it's the empathy, it's all of those things, which could be a part of what love is as well, right?
It is.
But then understanding that it changes and you don't always wake up every day and look at the person you love and say, oh, I love you today. You understand?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
So some of these things are not even things that you express outwardly, but it doesn't mean it is not there, right? So you love a person, it is there. How you manifest, I think loving somebody and expressing that can be different things, right? So like Hadi loving somebody and she can't even say it to the person because she doesn't have access to the person.
Or she loving someone and that person not knowing that
Exactly.
she exists.
Yeah. So that's an example. So the love is there,
So
but the
before these
expression
people
of the
even
love.
Before I get fired, I quit. My last day on the podcast.
The expression is different. So for me, I think there should be a lot of room to understand that. And it would help a lot, not just for us as people who are like seeking love or who are receiving love, but also people who are giving love. And I think it makes it easier as well for the people who are, in a relationship of love with us, whatever the kind of relationship.
So I found the quote. It's a bit long, but I think it really is something that needs to be said around this. Because I remember the first time I read it, I found it from you actually. You had posted on WhatsApp a long time last year, but it's basically to love someone long term is to attend 1,000 funerals of the people they used to be.
I loved
the
that.
people they're too exhausted to be any longer, the people they don't recognize inside themselves anymore, the people they grew out of, the people they never ended up growing into. We so badly want the people we love to get their spark back when it burns out, to become speedily found when they are lost. But it is not our job to hold anyone accountable to the people they used to be. It is our job to travel with them between each version and to honor what emerges along the way. Sometimes it will be an even more luminescent flame. Sometimes it will be a flicker that disappears and temporarily floods the room with the perfect and necessary darkness.
I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially at first, like I saw it, I was like, whoa.
I read it all the time, and I think it's so important that we give each other space to grow, and whenever that love does transform into something else, or that person transforms into someone else, we can either choose to love that version of themselves or say goodbye.
Or let them go,
and be like, okay, you know what, this version doesn't serve us anymore, and I'll part with it, and I won't be upset about it, and I'll just respect you for who you are now and move on and move forward.
I'm dying because I remember the girl who tweeted that on Oloni's thread. When people say if you love something you let it go, but her man must really have hated her because he kept coming back.
Maybe he loved her in bits because he lets go and then comes back.
That whole letting go, coming back stuff. I'm not saying that person doesn't love
I'm
you
not
by
for it,
coming and going, but
no, I think from experience I've learned it's very manipulative because you're doing it because you know whenever you come back the person will take you in.
You have access to that person.
You have access to that person. So you're not letting go, but you're also not, You know
what my biggest fear
staying.
in life is?
You're saying your fears again.
No, this one is a really, really
From
big
the frogs to what?
No. No, because you see on TV, on all these shows, or just in general, a man saying, "Oh, we've been through hell and back." I never want to be somebody's hell and back. That's like
ride or die and all of those. I don't
never want to be anyone's ride or die because that's so embarrassing. The minute someone says you guys have been through hell and back, it means he's cheated on you. He's had a side.
He's done all the nonsense.
His side chick has
He's married someone else and
multiple
divorced
families.
And then he's supposed to come back. No, I don't want to be nobody's hell and back. Thank you very much.
The ride or die.
We can be heaven and earth because earth is basic, and then we go up to heaven. But hell and back, I don't want to know how hell feels like. Thank you very much.
Hell and back is only okay if the hell is you encountering financial problems or you getting sick.
But that's hell, so that's earth.
Yeah.
Because as long as you two, that's earth.
It's like how people say for better for worse, and they interpret it to mean
that was not mom. But let us keep going.
No, but when I'm thinking about this, but then we as women we've been raised to believe that love is not love if you haven't gone through hell.
Yeah.
So let's just think. Okay, I want to know what your experiences, not experiences necessarily, but what has influenced ideas around love for you from childhood until now. What has changed? Because you're not sounding like Gambian women right now with all of these. I'm not going to move.
No, I honestly, I think for me, personally, my idea of what love is, and in terms of romantic relationships, what it is or what it should be, and especially a marriage, how it should be, it has changed a lot over these past few years. Because I used to be the kind who would say, oh, I've seen so and so person, they always see, they lived happily, this person was not abusive to them, blah blah blah. And then as I grew up I realized, okay, you may not have hit this person, but you have been an absolute asshole to that person. You've really ruined their life. And that, I think one time I had this conversation with some people where we were talking about whether we want how little girls grow up saying, oh, I want a husband like my dad, right? And then we had this conversation a few years ago whether we want husbands like our fathers. And you'd be surprised that majority of us, said, no, I want a father for my kids like my dad, but I don't want a husband like my dad. So there's that.
We don't want.
I didn't want to know.
Me and Hadi, we don't want.
So yeah. I think there's that.
I think it's an important thing because then again, it's basically what you see, right? Because even the relationships that you look at and think relationship goals, you're only seeing what people are showing you.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know what's happening in the background. You don't know what the backstory is. And I remember a few years ago, there was this guy, so hang on, you swing feminist thingy on Twitter and stuff. There's been people who've always seen us as problematic because of that. You know, and then a few years afterwards, this one person comes to me and says, "Oh, Gemma, I just wanted to say thank you because you've really opened my eyes up to something. Like, there's something you said, and I stopped and thought about how this was my mother's reality. You understand? And that my dad has really put her through hell, but it only took you framing it in this way for me to see that this was actually a problem." And I looked at him and I said, "You guys never talk to your mothers. You look at your moms, you glorify them, you praise them about munying and taking care of the family and taking care of your father, but you never stop. You never stop to ask them, or even if you can't ask them, to just observe what the dynamics are. Obviously, if you're an asshole yourself, you can't recognize those problematic issues, but then ask your mothers about your fathers. Their views of the man they're partnered with, the man they're married to, the man that they're in a union with, may be different from yo ninga viwe sa papa, because those two are entirely different relationships. You have men who are great fathers but absolutely terrible husbands, right? You have men who are neither good fathers nor good husbands, and you have people who try on both fronts, right? So you can't really just sit there and say, "Oh, it's my mom is doing well," because you've seen her cater and submit for a long time. And I think it really affects how, it's basically how we are conditioned to see love. Again, at the end of the day, you think love, growing up, it's always about relationships, from your crush to your boyfriend to who they think your husband is gonna be. And that one marriage is the one marriage that you're supposed to be in for life, right? And so for me, I mean, there's that whole conditioning, and it really ties, especially for us as women. It's why we have all of these things we're taught right from the beginning. Because the end goal is marriage. So you need to make yourself desirable. You need to make yourself likable. You need to tick all the boxes that would make you be looked at as wife material, whatever that is, to make it to marriage. Because for us, you think love, oh, this person has love in their life. It's in the context of marriage, generally.
And I think there's also this thing where we're also conditioned to believe that love is not love if it's not hurting you.
Yep,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if it's not painful, if you're not in hell, if you're not crying tears, if you're not running around fighting each other every day, it's not love. No, please.
Toxic.
I think the most beautiful forms of love is where you're able to, whatever relationship it is, platonic or romantic, where you're able to express yourself without any form of violence, whether it's verbal or physical or anything, where you're able to communicate your fears and what you don't like about the person, what that person has done to hurt you, without even any fear of any repercussion of thinking this person is going to leave me just because I've told them how I feel.
But even that, so for me, I describe love in one way. Like the main thing I look for in any kind of relationship, be it like with my family, with friends, with romantic partnerships, is freedom.
Yep.
Yeah.
So love is freedom for me. Like, that's it. So I've always been someone that is, I would say, a little different, a little more inquisitive, a little more like, I want to travel, I want to do so many things, and I've been raised by people who have let me be who I want to be. And so for me, my definition of love has always just been letting me be me. So and I know, like, in our settings, like, whenever, because I travel all the time, I don't sit in one place for a long time, and anytime, like, I always get comments about Hana so say but it's like, I wouldn't ever marry. First of all, me and marriage, we already don't mesh well like that. But I generally would never be tied down to somebody if they did not understand my need for freedom, and if they did not understand that me coming and going, like, me going means that I have the opportunity to come back. But the minute you try and stifle me, the minute you decide to want to pin me down and to make rules and regulations, I can't do it. I think that's also one of the first red flags I spot. Like, the minute I start talking to someone in any way and they start doing the whole, this is that, I will cut you off so quickly. I'm like, my own mother doesn't do that. And you think that you out of nowhere, you who I don't even know.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, it's like the fastest way to just, for me to be done with anything. So that's the thing, like, when I think about relationships or any of that, freedom is the first thing I always think about, and it's the first thing I look for too, because I do not ever want to be stifled in this life or in the next. Like, you cannot do that to me. But yeah, so when me and Maluma get together, because Maluma's also quite a free spirit,
Jesus Christ.
and you know it's funny. It also shows in my crushes, Rihanna. You know all these people that I like. They're for the streets.
No, you actually
Are you really
crush
free?
on people who do not even know that you exist.
Are you really free? This freedom that you're talking about.
What do you mean? Am I really free?
Because it seems like you're locked in your own shell of delusion and illusion.
So
imagine
this
crushing
podcast
on
episode
Rihanna,
is
but
over.
every day.
This episode is over. I say I don't belong to the streets. I am the streets.
Yeah,
True.
I believe you.
That's true.
So, but I want to hear about you people's experiences because we can't just keep talking about my relationships. I want to know what y'all are up to. How's your love life, Ngone?
You have a married woman in the room. Why are you asking me?
Nice couples.
So I can talk about my loves. I can talk about all of that. All right, let me ask another question. Yeah. So for me, the patriarchal conditioning is very deep for me. I'm not gonna lie, because the idea of like talking to a man first, I'd rather like just have the soup and
If
do
he
it.
cannot hear my thoughts, that's his personal problem.
That's what I'm saying. You didn't see me staring at you. You didn't see me looking like.
don't
one
hear
thing.
my
Did you
thoughts?
feel it?
I blinked twice for you. Is that not enough?
Shooting your shot. But yeah, I think I shot my shot. What's the past?
Shut my
Shoot
shot.
Wow. I shoot at my shot once, and it was the most disastrous relationship I've ever been in. So never again. # never again.
Tiara, Sibina.
Never, ever again. Ever again.
I don't think I've ever made the first move. First of all, I've not even been in enough relationships to even start explaining stories. I think I've only really been in 3 serious relationships. So I've never really shot my shot. And I think from that aspect, to be honest, it's something that I've had to unlearn. I've been super traditional about it. The whole who approaches who first. So obviously you'll do the signs and the wings and, making yourself available and present. But like direct shooting of shots, I don't think, I've never done that.
My thing is like, if we're positioning ourselves for you to know, why do you not know?
I respond to your messages. Isn't that enough?
Imagine.
It's wild.
I'm picking your calls. I'm
They
talking
can't
to
pick
you.
you. That's
Okay,
the
but
thing.
the patriarchal conditioning is deep.
Yeah, it's really
deep.
where it
No, but
comes
how do
from.
you-
Because then I saw this, I think it was yesterday, this whole tweet about, women who shoot their shot, you don't want to be with them because they're desperate and all.
Oh,
so it's that kind of
exactly.
conditioning that stops, because that's what stops a lot of women. Because then even among like men, I think these are conversations that you have seen online talking about, mom and your chase and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it's been made so abnormal. It's been made to look like a problem where men are the ones who are supposed to do the chasing and the hunting and what. So it's really just that whole idea of men as predator and women as prey, and they always have to make the first move. They need to do the chasing. So when it turns around, then people are like, you understand? You see the reactions, for example, when you see videos of women proposing on Twitter, for example.
Yeah.
And people just talking, this could never be me, this is somebody who's ready. Why are we having a problem with somebody
I mean,
making
do
a
whatever
proposal?
floats your boat.
So again, it's a shot that you're shooting.
I draw the line.
Again, it's a shot that you're shooting. So for me, it's like, okay, I may not do that, but then why am I having a problem with somebody who wants to do it? Because again, you're thinking marriage. Imagine a Nganeka relationship. How many times have we seen that? Nganeka and it 12 years, 13 years, 10 years. You
First
want
of
to
all,
get
why?
married to the person, for example, but that's not happening because you're waiting on them to make the move for marriage, because the idea is nyom want to make the move for marriage. So for me, it's even something as simple as bringing up the conversation. Where is this going? And if this is not what this person plans, why sit there and waste your time?
Yeah.
See,
For that
I
whole
understand.
extended
No, I
period.
get that.
I get that. The
getting
asking
that
where is
on
this
a
going,
knee?
but
What's the problem?
listen, I saw a video of a pregnant woman on her knees proposing to the man, like, I'm pregnant for you.
But she wanted to do that.
I'm pregnant for you. Isn't that enough sign for
She
you to want
wanted to
marry
do that.
me?
That's my point.
No.
No, but I get it.
Anyway, no guy to cover shame. That's why people do it.
I
It's
get
not
it.
like-
I get
No.
it. Could never be pray to God. It's never me.
See,
Exactly.
That's the
Because
thing.
you
Life
never
is
know.
Exactly.
I never know. Because I could be here next week. I'm out. Janae Guru for someone's son. You never
See,
know.
when you do that, you just kick yourself off the podcast because we'll stop knowing you.
No
I
space
think
for
it
you
would
again.
make for a great story.
We'll tell the story. You won't
You
be
can
here.
tell it on the Left Click podcast.
No,
But yeah, for me, I think it's really also a demonstration of that conditioning. Because for us, it's a shocker. It's like, oh, I can never do this. It's bowing down to the patriarchy. But again, let's just think deeper about it and see it from that perspective of why is it shocking us?
Yeah, but
you understand?
my thing, Tom, I don't think it's even bowing down to the patriarchy. Is that I genuinely do not believe that men slap hard enough.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. But I think that is a separate thing from the whole judgment bunity there. Because usually when you get that content online, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of judgment. It's a lot of insults. You understand? It's not even from that point of, oh, these people don't even deserve this thing. It's never would I lead. Blah, blah, why are you doing that? So for me, I don't really think people approach it from a like critical point. It's really from a really judgmental point. And again, if you're shooting your shot for NECA with somebody, how does it change when it comes to now shooting your shot put say at somebody?
I'm gonna learn to shoot my shot.
I mean, honestly, Nakmo,
just don't miss.
I mean, what top shotter do you see that misses? Mavada said it. Top shotter don't miss, man.
As hard as it is to accept, though, like, okay, men deserve
love. I know.
Yeah, they do deserve love, and you know,
they do.
The okay man who's not a misogynist.
No, but even then, okay, continue, and then I'll go ahead.
No, I'm trying to, because I really don't want to say men deserve love.
No, you wanted to say
that, but they do. It's a. So for me, when I was after I read all about love recently, I read I can't say right after because I read a lot of other bell hook stuff in between. But there's this book she has. It's called The Will to Change. So on men, masculinity, and love. So it's basically about how men in general, and I think any woman that loves a man at any point in their life, so be it your father, your brother, your husband, your whatever it is, it's a book that you should read because it goes into like a lot of inner workings about why men sometimes are the way that they are. So it's not even that they don't deserve love, it's that patriarchy has conditioned them in a way that showing all of these things is a sign of weakness. When like, you know, they can't fully love themselves, they are healing so many parts, or they refuse to acknowledge the parts of them that they need to heal. So it's hard, you know, for them to be the best versions of themselves when they don't even know what it looks like to be the best version of themselves.
And for me, I think when Go was saying that, I was thinking it from what kind of love do you pour into them even when they're kids, right? Because it's always the whole tough love thing. You can't hug them, you can't kiss them, you can't say I love you to them, you know, so that's what they grow up with. And again, it ties into this whole toxic masculinity idea. I need to be tough. I don't need to show emotions. And that's what they carry into their relationships as well. Because if you're not given the space to really express how you're feeling, if you're not shown also that you deserve the soft life, I guess, that's how you grow up. It becomes your conditioning, and it's something that you have to actively unlearn to be able to move. Some of them get into relationships and they realize, oh, this is not it. I need to work on myself. You know, some of them, it happens when they have daughters, for example. For some of them, it happens at different stages. For others, it never happens at all. And that's how you can, and when you look at Gambia, for example, I mean, look at the kid. There's a reason why we have this whole idea of Naka. Big man si kër, small man si tant, or whatever it is, So because then you come home, you want to assert your authority and all of that. You go out, it's a completely different question.
I think for me, that's also why I'm very big on, with my guy friends, they all have to say I love you. Like, it's one of those things where, like, maybe before me, you didn't know, you weren't comfortable with saying I love you, but I make it a very, very big deal to consistently tell them that I love them. So to the point where, because initially I know the first time I say I love you, it's like a very uncomfortable feeling. But I keep saying it. Like, I'll say I love you and I don't hear anything. I'm like, did you not hear me say I love you? So, like, you have to repeat it until you're comfortable with just loving outside of a romantic setting. Because I want you to be fine with loving someone who is not your mother, who is not your sister, who is not, you know, the girl that's sleeping next to you. You have to be okay with loving people just because you love them. Just because you love them. But on that note, we're gonna take a little break and we will be right back with the conversation, y'all. We love you.
Time.
All right, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. And as we continue on today's episode, which is all about love, shout out to Bell Hooks. We should name this episode all about love.
Bell Hooks, the flower high. I'm gonna for PR.
Bilal. But as we delve into, you know what's funny? She's the only person who's critiqued Beyonce, and I was like, fine, it's okay. She said it, so it must be right. Yeah. But as we continue on this episode, I want to ask, how do you like to be loved? What are your love languages?
Softly.
You softly, you
No, really. I'm in my office and I was just sitting there staring at my computer and I realized this is not the life. So me, I just want the soft life. The loving, the leaving, the everything. Let it be soft. I want all of my soft landings. But when it comes to love languages, to be honest, me, I get pissed off when people pick one love language and say, this is my love language. Yeah. All of them are my love languages. All of them are my love languages, depending on what day it is. Okay. You know, so one day I could be like needing touch. Mm-hmm. Other days it's the acts of service that does it for me. Mm-hmm. Other days it's the words of affirmation. Most of my every day it does it for me, right? So for me, it's like I can't really pick and say this is my love language. All of them work for me. It depends on what I am needing the most on a particular day.
My number one used to be what's it, the speech one?
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. But then like I was like, all niggas do is lie, bro.
Exactly.
So like,
and once you tell them this is my love language, they practice it and then
that's the question you must never answer. A man asks you what is your love language? What are you looking for in a man? Never answer it.
No, for me, to be honest, like all of them for me, because I'm always like, depending on the day, and even on the day itself, at different times, I could be looking for different things. I could be wanting different things. So I really don't think it makes sense to just pick one or two and say, these are my love languages. So maybe there are some that could be dominant. That's a possibility. But for me, it's all of them. And I think they should even add one separately. That touch, because I think it's like physical touch and all of that. They should add financial touch.
No, because but financial touch is the gifts one.
It's not
not the gifts one.
You need to create a category for it. That is my point.
You like money.
Yes.
Yeah. So create a sixth category for the love languages and I'll still collect all of them. Yeah. But for me, like all of them do it for me. And again, it's like being loved. So for me, like I think the acts of service is also really big for me because then it shows to me that you care. It shows also that you're paying attention to what my needs are. But then it's also the reverse where you're allowing me to also offer acts of service to you. So yeah, that's really what it is for me. Obviously the foundations, respect, trust, loyalty, those things are non-negotiable for me. But then when it comes to the love languages, Mom, give me all.
For me, I think my main love language is attention. I feel if you're not giving me attention,
are you a man?
No, honestly, if you're not giving me attention, it's like, where's your attention going? Do you not care about me? Like,
don't I exist?
Don't I exist? What am I to you?
Y'all sound a little toxic.
That was like a joke.
Toxic.
But yeah, attention is really
something that's
honestly, it's really important to me. And secondly, the financial touch.
We've created it.
I love it.
The Musso love language is financial touch.
I love it. I love it.
We should actually develop the Musso love languages.
Yeah, but I also, like Jem, I also like the acts of service, especially, I'm going through something, I need something, and you're able to help me get that or do that for me, or you pay attention to something that I've mentioned and you get that for me. That always, it means the world to me. And of course, the non-negotiables, the trust, the respect, the confidence. But
I love that.
Give me attention, give me money. Yes.
And service me.
And service.
I'm the same, but like
service me. I like that.
Yeah, service me too. Yeah.
For me, my two biggest love languages are acts of service and physical touch. Like I said back in the day, it used to be the tucking one, but niggas be lying. But for me, acts of service is a huge thing for me, mainly because I'm one of those people where if I care about you, I have no limits. Like I do the most. It's a lot of cooking for you. Cooking, I think, is actually the main way that I show that I care about you.
We've experienced it.
She does love us.
If I don't cook for you, then I don't love you. It's one of those things. Like I'm very big on it. But I'm also I'm it's my love language mainly because I do so much in my, in my personal life where I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's to the point where like sometimes I neglect myself.
Yeah.
So for me, acts of service is like just remembering little things that make my life easier. I want to come home to a clean house. I want, I want my feet massaged, and that also comes to physical touch too, because the way you say that if someone doesn't like is not paying you attention, then they don't love you. It's the same for me, like and it's with how I'm with all of you. I need to touch you consistently. And I feel like I'm one of those people where if you're not touching me, like if you're not even holding my hand or just patting me on the back, I assume you hate me. Like it's not even like oh, do they care, do they don't know, you hate me, that's it. Because it's comforting.
And she's calling us toxic.
No, for me it comes from a place of I'm an anxious person. And with anxiety, for me, it's always I need grounding things. It's the same way with a manicure or with anything, because it's like the color and just seeing that it grounds me. So it's the same where it's like I don't want to be anxious in these relationships, or I don't want to be anxious around people. So the way I know that I'm safe is through touch. So those are the two biggest ones. I also like gifts, obviously. I like money, but I love a gift that's thoughtful. It like, if I tell you something and then you give me something that's like, for example, my birthday, not my last birthday, they got me an air fryer, and I was so happy, I almost cried. It wasn't just I got an air fryer.
Saving lives.
I'm telling you, I got an air fryer, and I also got
Did you get
salted
AirPods?
caramel? I got AirPods. I got salted caramel ice cream, and I also got pistachio ice cream, and my favorite chip. So it doesn't even have to be big gifts. It's just stuff I care about.
One.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be expensive, but I get so happy. And the air fryer one, that's the best gift I've had great gifts.
Amazing.
I've had diamonds. I've had all of that, but the air fryer, it takes the cake because I cook all the time, and to be able to like for someone to just buy me that.
It means they're also paying attention, because that's the thing. Because you could talk gifts and people think, oh, it's expensive, but you can buy something that's really expensive that doesn't really speak to me at all. It doesn't appeal to me, and I think that's an interesting conversation, because then you have people who are loving you the way they want to love you and not really loving you the way you want to be loved. And so it's always like there's a gap. You are always feeling like, oh, this person is not doing enough. They are feeling like, oh, they're doing too much. And I feel like it also leads to a lot of conflict, and that obviously is it kind of helps when there's communication clearly to say, oh, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And to also understand that communication is always like, oh, come sit at the table, we have this thing to talk about. It's also what cues you are taking, how much attention you're paying. If I touch this person here, what's the reaction as opposed to when I touch them there? If I buy them this kind of gift, what's the reaction as opposed to that? Even with the love languages that we say, these are my main love languages, or these are the dominant ones, how am I showing up for them? Because it's not like a wholesale thing where, oh, when I physical touch, so I'm just going to come and do them and slap them and different, because I'm still touching them, you understand? So for me, I think that's also something that's really interesting in relationship dynamics, where you feel like, oh, you feel like I get it a lot, but then the other person is not receiving it the same way, because you're just not loving them the way they want to be loved. Exactly. So it leads to a lot of frustration on both sides.
It's so important to have these conversations, like not even specifically around love languages, but asking how do you want to be loved, number one. And you can also, because I have this list of questions like you should ask partners and all of that, because I think it's very important that we all have certain cues to ask people. But it's also stuff like, how do you react when you're angry? Do you need, what kind of space do you need? Stuff like that. Just seeing what your partner's needs and wants are versus like what you've been raised to believe for yourself and how you react to certain things. So I think it's very, 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 very important, and it also helps with setting boundaries too.
Absolutely.
Because for me, I know that when I'm upset, I don't want to talk. Like
Hello.
I will never talk. I've been like that since I was a child. Like literally, I remember being like 7 years old on like my doctor's salary, just on the opposite side of the couch, and because my grandfather he knew me very well, so he knew that when I was upset, don't talk to me, don't touch me. And I think I sat there for like 7 hours or so, like a long time, because I'm not a goody jot and mogoman to madam teddy, but I didn't talk to anyone. But that's how I am, where it's like I have to process it. You can't force me to forgive. You can't force me to to
talk
be
about
nice,
it,
to talk about it until I've processed my emotions and I know why I'm feeling a certain way. Then I can come and talk to you about it. And even talking, I don't like to verbally talk about it. I'll write you a letter. I'm very famous.
You're reading my life.
I dated someone who would ask me, who would tell me to write how I feel. If we're talking, he would be like,
Yeah.
Right.
Because then they understand
Yeah.
that's the easier way for
Yeah,
you
because
So I'll
to.
just start crying. Or
No, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Once mother and I just cry. I can't
Same.
talk to you, so just leave me. But I think it's really interesting because when I started dating Oz, right? So he came to Gambia the first time and we were together and he understood that, okay, when I'm upset, I need space. But then he would just give too much space. And I'm like, I did not ask for all of this space. I did not ask for. So for me, it's like you're running away from my problem. You can't really come close. But then he's seeing, oh, you're in a mood or you're upset or whatever. Sometimes he's not even the reason why I am in that mood. You know, oh, I'm gonna give you some space, and he picks the car keys and he gives me space, and I'm like, why are you running away from me? Why are you not here holding me? When months more I'm not in space, love. So I think it really helps to just understand the person you're with, and some of these things you learn as time goes on, as you build your relationship. I mean, in 5 years, I've learned more than like from the start. You understand? And then you understand how better to love the person. And it helps you people to get closer. So it's like long distance relationship, miles away. We've sat like 17 months without seeing each other. But then it's like we're just connecting. And so every time it's like we're closer because then there's those conversations. But then you're also just paying attention to the person and understanding, Kinila Mel, this is what happens when this happens. And so this is how I can navigate that situation. And it's really just nice.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. I think it's very, very, very important. And I'm glad that we're all letter writers.
Oh, I write emails. I write long emails.
I do. And
then for me, it's like, okay, it's a pace because I could do that and just express everything I want to through writing. But I also realized it's helped me with speaking up.
Yeah.
Right. So initial years, it's like, oh, I don't want to sit and talk about this verbally because then I'm just going to break down completely and we're not going to solve the issue, basically. So I'm going to write and then we could digest it and then we talk. Yeah. So it becomes easier. But then in doing that, now I'm comfortable just coming and saying, you know what, this, that, you know.
No, I'm one of those people where I think I'm done with something and then like I'll send you a letter like 8 months later. I'm like, well, you know, I said I was over this, but actually,
let's take it back.
Let's go back.
I think for me, the writing thing is a double-edged sword. So I've had to learn to tame my writing because when I'm angry, I can't speak. So if I'm texting you or I'm writing to you, that's when I say what I want to say. But then that's when I can actually
put everything
and then just go over, like I can go overboard. I can just so for me, that's when I can express my feelings and tell you how I feel. But it's also when I can go overboard and just let out my anger, and that is not always a good thing because then you say stuff, or I would say stuff that I go back and read and I'm like, oh, that's a bit too much. Like I wasn't formulating my feelings well enough. I was lashing out instead of expressing myself. So I've also had to learn to not write in the heat of things when I'm feeling the anger. I've had like sit in my anger, think about exactly what has upset me. Because you can be upset, Feka, yo, Kinga Meresa is not the reason you're upset. You're upset, you know, you're just projecting on that person, right? So think about it, you know, think of why you're angry or why you are in that state and deal with that particular thing instead of just lashing out.
I agree, but also I think for me I would write in the heat of the moment, but I wouldn't send it.
I would hit send. It's sassy.
No, because I think it's very good to honor your feelings in that moment and to be like, okay, this is how I felt. And for me, I honor it through writing because then I'll forget. But then if I write it, I'm like, okay, this is how I feel. But is this part valid? Or is this part blamey? So if it feels blamey, I'll change the language. Like, okay, you know what? It's not that you did something, but it's like, I think that this and this, and this is how me thinking that made me feel.
I think it also helps with resolving whatever the issue is, because then people can get easily defensive when they feel like you're blaming them and
attacking
that.
them,
so that can be.
Yeah, and even because I'm thinking of, because for me it's like I'm one of those people, if I don't get my point across, I will never feel satisfied with my life. But I'm just realizing that I'm learning all of this and all of how to communicate better as I grow up through my relationship with my mom. So it's not even through romantic anything, but it's just learning to have those adult conversations in spaces where initially you're not necessarily looked at as an adult. And for me, I've never been vulnerable. Even as a child, I think first child syndrome, you have to tuck everything in and you have to not feel anything and you have to go about it. But you know, therapy and just learning to love other people, and just, I guess, my friendships, my female friendships, Nene, y'all, Zainabu, and stuff like that, I've had to be vulnerable. Because I have people that genuinely care about me, and they're okay with you telling your emotions and speaking how you feel. And then you realize that, you don't sound silly by having feelings, and you don't sound silly by caring about people. So I'm on this path of vulnerability. It's disgusting. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it, but
I like it.
No,
because I've been the same. Like I've always been the type that doesn't talk about what I'm going through. So I'd rather die. I'd rather die than talk about, like, especially things that I'm struggling with. So the good things, the positive, it's easy, But then the things that I'm struggling with, I'd rather die than, come and talk about it. And it was really coming from a point of, I don't want to put a burden on other people to care for me. But that's something that I've really had to learn. And yes, in my marriage, but also my relationship with my mom, but also in my relationship with my family and my sister. So those are things that I've had to come into and just understand. Express yourself, and it's an okay thing to do. And then you find there's a lot of peace that comes with just letting things out as well. Because with the whole writing thing, the reason why for me, when I get to the point where I write, I send, it's because maybe Limala writer, it's something that I've kept for like months. Right, so I'm not one that's like reactionary in the moment. So you hurt me and all of that, and I'm just watching you. I'm just there. I'm taking it in. I internalize a lot of things, and I'm processing. Because for me, it's also the whole point around just thinking about things. Is it my perception? Did it really happen? Is it happening the way that I'm seeing it, or the way that I think it's happening? I overthink situations, especially with conflict. I hate conflict. So I overthink conflict. I overthink confrontation. I don't do confrontation very well. So for me, it's like when I get to that point, it's because my halati yep nyorna. I have arrived at the point where I've decided this is what it is. This is what I want to communicate, but also because I've allowed myself to get a lot more clarity. Because then with a lot of things, it could be patterns. So the person does it once, they do it twice, they do it 3 times, and then you decide this is what it is. But because I am not sharing that whole journey, it's not coming out. What people usually see is that reaction. And so it's like, oh, you're not patient, you're not you're reactionary, you're blah, 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 blah. So for me, when I get to that point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to take this step, I'm going to talk about it, then I know I'm talking about it from a point where I've given it a lot of thought, more than enough thought, actually, and I'm ready to take whatever the consequences are from that conversation. But yeah, being vulnerable has also helped me. It's the freedom for me as well, because then it's like, why are you living this life carrying this whole burden when you as a person, you are the person that everybody comes to with their vulnerabilities as well? So why don't you allow people to also love you? Why don't you allow people to be a soft landing for you? I'm learning it. It's a hard one, to be honest.
With friendships and with all these other platonic relationships, I'm excellent at it. Not excellent at it now, but I'm really good at it because like, especially like I said, y'all, Nene, Zainabu, I can offload without feeling like I'm a burden, because I don't know, like for me sometimes I'm always like, is it burdensome to have these conversations? But in the romantic settings too, I think recently, maybe in the past year, that I've gotten better at like just straight up voicing stuff. I remember this was like last year, I like made a very big move about just expressing some kind of anger, disdain and stuff like that. And when I was done, I was like, oh my God.
Freedom.
And not just that, like when I first sent the message, I said, this person's just going to block it and delete it and never talk to me again. But then we had a great conversation. And it was, it was very open, and from there, our relationship changed instantly. Like, it was like one of those things where, okay, you know what? We've made it to the next step where we can discuss things without feeling like if I say something, the person's going to run. Because I've always been a runner in romantic relationships. As always, I kind of belong to the streets. And what happens on the streets? You drive. You run. But now I'm like, you know what? It's fine to talk about things. And if that person is not fully receptive, go pack some bagas, and you cut your losses. You've done your part, and then you dip.
But then, to be fair, I think you should also allow the people you're in a relationship with, platonic, romantic, you should allow them to be vulnerable to you on their own terms.
Yep.
You can't force them to be vulnerable. You can't force them to share. Like, I've learned that with my relationships with people, with Jama, because Jama doesn't. She could be dying, like the Friday did there, and she just sit there just internalizing everything, like she said. But I think I've noticed that, like she said, like recently she's opening up. And I remember one day I was about to rant to you guys and I was like, is there space on your plate? And you guys said to me, we all share the same plate. And like I think about that till now and it just means so much to me because it means I can shut up. No, because it means I have a space where fuck y'all. See, I am quitting Musso. I'm quitting today. As of today, I quit. I don't want to be around these people anymore. It's done. It's over. But yeah, seriously, it made me realize that I have this space where I can just come to and just be myself and, you know, share my pain or my joy and or whatever it is that I'm feeling. And, you know, it's a good thing.
And I think when people feel like they're ready as well, they just come do it. Yeah, when people feel like they're compelled also, I think it gets people holding back away from thinking, oh, I'm putting a burden on them. It's like, oh, why are you forcing me to talk about this when I'm not ready?
Yeah.
But then once they feel safe and they feel like this is my space, this is a place where I feel okay, when they are ready, it could be months or years later, they will always come back. I mean, look at the stories we share. From like years ago. I'm like, holy hell, and then we're like, okay, but then even that for me is important because yes, it happened years ago, but then you're sharing it now and you're being helped to process it, maybe in a way that you could not do it yourself, or maybe with other people that you shared. So the process and now you're getting another chance to process in a different way with different people who understand you in a different manner. So for me, like, it's always everything happens at its time, and man, I believe in that a lot. Like, I don't like to put my feelings out there when I don't feel like I'm ready, and it's something that I'm learning to do better with and understanding. Eventually I'll just die with all of these feelings, you know. So it has been changing a lot, and it's been a really good feeling. So yeah,
if this past Panini Press hasn't taught us anything,
I think we've been more vulnerable in this past.
Everyone's been vulnerable.
Yes, we're being
in
pressed.
all ways and fronts.
Your emotions even are being pressed. You sit down, all of a sudden someone
pressed.
that you haven't spoken to in years just pops up.
Yeah,
I swear people have been doing apology Panini Presses. Pandemic apologies has been
I think
wild.
it has given a lot of people clarity on what's important, what's not important, but also on cutting your losses, because I feel like it's also helped bring a lot of clarity for me. Like, there's relationships that I've decided to put an end to, even without like having a conversation, blah blah blah. But for me, it has helped because I'm like, okay, there's a lot more clarity, and I've come into a space where I understand what relationships are it for me, basically, and everything else is maybe just an illusion, or you're just keeping up appearances or saving face and all of that. We talked about this when we did the healthy relationship, so no need to rehash it. But if anything at all, I think when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, it also teaches you a lot about yourself, and it helps guide, you know, the steps that you're taking, and it also helps to improve your relationship with other people, because then they also are able to see parts of you that maybe they did not have a chance to see before.
I'm just gonna ask one more thing. But so I think, because again we talked about boundaries and stuff in the healthy relationship one, but I have one pregunta. Pregunta means question in Spanish.
Who are you interpreting?
Jama.
Okay.
But the Madridista over here, I have no reason to interpret for her. But how do you deal with...
il faut le dire en français, quoi?
On peut.
On peut, nigga.
Oh my god. This is the perfect pre-finale because you guys... No, just keep going.
We're letting out all the heavy stuff we've been carrying for 19 episodes, over 20 episodes. But yeah.
Oh my god. All right. So when it comes to you know, if you've cultivated your relationships and you know how everything works for you, especially in your partnership or in your communion, how do you deal with setting boundaries for people outside? So how do you make sure that your relationship is simply you and your person or people's relationships? And you know how you do that.
I don't know about how I do it for myself, but with other people's relationships, I've learned to put a boundary, sort of, to only deal with what they choose to share with me.
Okay.
So if you're in a relationship with Jama, what you choose to share with me is what I deal with, right? So I don't go out looking for more you know, regarding your relationship, because your relationship is your relationship and the one we have is mine. You know, it's ours. But also, you know, in terms of personal relationships, I don't know about boundaries because, see, I have issues with setting up boundaries. I really do. But, you know, one thing I learned from my grandpa not long ago that I'm instilling in my life, or I'm, you know, trying to make great use of, is he said, about when you're talking about something, or when you have something to say, right? He said when you're talking about something, or when you have something to say, the moment you've said what's on your mind, stop.
Yeah.
So if what I have to say is 1 to 5, you don't need to go beyond 6. That is it. Because he said, you know, nitsumine sa waharek da flyer.
Yep.
You know, nitsumine. So that applies to your friendships, to your romantic relationships. Your partner does something to you that you don't like, you say it, and that's it. You don't go beyond that.
I think that's something that is also a red flag when you have to consistently repeat yourself.
Yes,
It is.
Because I'm
It
one
is.
of those people.
Because they're not paying attention
They're not.
then, or they
Or
don't care.
enough.
Yeah.
They don't care enough to
Yeah.
pay attention to you. So there's that, and there's also the thing that we talked about of people. For me, you know, I talked about attention, but it's also a red flag where someone knows that this is your love language,
And they
and
deny
they
you.
deny you that, or
It's
they
violence.
give it, or they give it to you to a certain extent, to a point where you're getting used to it, and then they take it
withdraw.
back.
It's
You know, they
violence. That's
withdraw.
manipulation,
Yeah, that's violence. That's manipulation, and it's a huge red flag.
So for me, I think what has helped with boundaries, right, is for the longest, and this is what I've always been like, even before I got into my relationships, it's always respecting other people's boundaries. But I think the funny thing is also even when they don't set boundaries, I set the boundaries.
Okay.
You understand? Understanding, okay, this is a relationship. I may have a relationship with one of the people in that relationship. And it could be anything, romantic, platonic, friendships, whatever you have, family even. Because even within the families, you have like different people who have different kinds of relationships, and the dynamics are different. So for me, it has always been understanding where I stop when it comes to other people's relationships. So for example, with friends, like you guys, for example, you can have your partners. For me, my relationship with that person is by virtue of my relationship with you.
Yes.
So if I mean, we could all come together, hang out, whatever. For example, I wouldn't have their number. That's an example, right?
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't go maybe hang out with them separately. So anything I do is basically through you, because through you la hame, like that person. So for me, I think that has also helped, because then when I had my own relationships, the people around me also understood, you know, to an extent, oh, this is also what it is about. But I think it's also coming from a point where I am married to a private person, right? I remember when we got married, he came to me and was like, who are all these people following me on Twitter? Like his follower count just shot up.
That's
like
what happens
crazy.
when you marry an influencer.
Yeah, stuff like that. So his follower count just went up, and he was like, all of these people are following me because of you. And I said, yeah. And I was like, are you okay with it? You know, because then I understand I'm putting, it's a lot more attention going to him than usual. And he's a very, very private person. So that has also helped us both. I remember we were talking about this with his brother the other time. We were like, and he was like, Ian Kai mom, talk lens and corner, like, you understand? But everybody that we're involved with, and we have amazing relationships with people, you understand? But everybody understands when it comes to their marriage, it is their marriage. Even our families. My mom never talks about my marriage, for example. Everybody. So it's clear to everybody that this is how they want to live their lives. You understand? And when it comes to connecting with everyone else, we still do that. But then we also have our thing, which is our thing. And within the relationship itself, I think the communication is also important around things that you don't like, things that you wouldn't take. And this is right from the beginning. So for me, it was always about saying, these are my deal breakers, these are my red flags, this happens, I'm out, or this happens, this is what, and also trying to learn what those are for him as well. So it can be really hard though, because then if you look at a situation like marriage, where you're living together, for example, sometimes it can be very blurred lines. How do you really establish boundaries with someone who you're waking up with and sleeping with and eating with and all of that? So sometimes it can be difficult to maybe enforce the boundaries, if not set them. But I think one way you can do it is to communicate.
Just
you
put
know,
a divider on the bed.
so you can pay. Sometimes you would be the one to even pill it. But for me, I think, yeah, communicating that and just having the person understand. But also, I think it also picks up with time. Like we were saying, they understand you, they understand your personality, they understand what you want and what you don't feel. And then the point is really, are they respecting those things about you?
I think for me, not from my experience with boundaries, I would just say it's the boundaries I also set for married friends. In that I don't ask questions.
Exactly.
So unless you come to me and you say a certain thing and you just choose to let me in, it's not my business.
And
Like-
even then, when you're dealing with it, you deal with it to a certain extent. You don't
I'm
go,
for him, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm for him,
I think
yeah.
the
No,
only
no.
one that I've always, and I think I've told like you too, you guys know, the people who are closest to me know, I'm like, okay, if you find out, because you know what my red flags are, you know what the deal breakers are for me. So if you find that out and you don't tell me, and I eventually find out that you knew,
Yeah,
that's a
an
problem
issue, yeah.
for me.
And
right?
I think all three of us
Yeah.
have had that
We've had that conversation.
where
So for
it's
us, we know it's
these
okay
are-
to
you-
come and
you
yeah.
have to come and
Yeah.
tell me these things, yeah.
But even that is those are boundaries as well, because
Yeah.
then you're clear about what it is that you want to take on.
And what-
and-
Yeah, what you can't, yeah. And yeah, I think for me, yeah, that's what it is, because I do have a lot of married friends, but even people, I think the minute you're in a relationship, or even you start talking to someone and it's looking very serious, I find a way to just back out and respect it. If you choose to pull me into it, then that's great. But if not, it's like, you know, I understand it and I respect it. Because I also know the way I love my friends. And before you introduce me to someone, you have to really mean it. Because, and before you even tell me anything about your relationship, you have to really, really, really be sure that you want me to know. Because if it's something bad, I'll never forgive that person.
Please don't break the table.
I
Gemma
tell my
sitting
friends
on.
I tell my friends partners this all the time. Even when I meet them, I'm like, look, maybe she's nice and forgiving. Me, I'm forgiving when it comes to things that happen to me, but my friends, I will kill somebody.
I shall keep quiet.
I will live in mile 2 just for you. I tell
I
my
think that's
friends'
one of the
husbands all
reasons
the
why I
time.
also try to set those boundaries and not like get too close.
Yeah.
Because Mantam Dumadebale.
Yeah.
Go is laughing because she knows she has people that she has forgiven me. I've not forgiven them.
No, I'm laughing because a colleague of mine, she was like, "Oh, I hear you talk about your friend Gemma a lot. What is she like?" And I said to her briefly, she's someone who she has not talked to certain people who I've dated for years just because they hurt me, and she just died laughing. She's like, she can hold a grudge. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but that is coming from a place of love. Like, I've seen this person hurt you,
cannot forgive
and
Mom, I'm not even gonna
No,
sit here
I'm
and
the same.
pretend.
I'm
I'm
the
sorry.
same. I'll be
said
that
it.
person
I
where, like,
cannot. I've
even if you
tried,
forgive them.
because for me it was also like, okay, what is it looking like to the person that has been hurt? What is that looking like? But then I just realized it's not in me. It's not in me. I cannot.
No, but I said, like, if my friend forgives the person that they love, and then they get married, they'll have kids, but I'll come to that house, I'll look at my nieces and nephews, I'll hang out with them, but I doubt I'll even say more than 2 words to the person.
I knew you that, but it doesn't
That's
change.
it.
No, but like, I'm laughing at Gemma, but I've had this conversation with someone who's married to someone like I really love, and this person was like, "Oh, well, me and this person were married, they're pregnant now, so what's going to, like, what's going to happen if we have a
Divorce, nigga.
what's going to happen if when we have a kid and I come to visit and it's awkward?" I'm like, that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah.
It's not my problem.
I won't ask you to hurt my person.
I once I had a family member, her husband was garbage. I once basically sent him a letter too, warning him that I had a baseball bat, that whenever I saw him that I was gonna beat him up. They were still married at that time, so he showed my cousin the messages, and she was like, yeah. Like, and that's
For me,
her.
I
What
take
are you
it
going
really, really personal, and that's something I've been trying to like let go of. But I mean,
No, please, we love it.
Can't.
We love it.
I
I
can't
don't
let
try
go
so
of it.
do on them, so I can't, and I don't even want to be honest.
No, I don't.
There was something I was talking about with Lai Bojang, and I said to him, "Oh, I blocked this and this person because they did this," and he's like, so you're thinking this sort?
They're over, son. They're over.
Your son, then your son.
I think with like all of I think Nen is the most forgiving, surprisingly. Even though she's in with it, but when it comes to like me and romantic relationships, she's the most forgiving. I don't even know how, or I don't know why, or maybe it's the people, or maybe she just knows that me too, I'm kind of problematic. But Senabu, Chumbe, Chumbe especially, Kato, never. Like, I'll come and I'll beg on that person's behalf. Be like, okay, this person literally just told me to come and say forgive them. And I'll be like, what does that have to do with us?
Exactly, that's your problem.
Never.
No, but I've seen someone who said that is coming from a place of, your friend having seen you in the state of hurt.
Because then when they did that
Yeah.
shit, it was that friend that was that was there seeing. They're not seeing it. Understand? So it's easy for them to come back, and that's it.
And that's
They're not seeing. And I think it's also a protective thing, like where you're not. And this is also just manifestations of love and stuff. You don't want the person going through that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So if they've done it once, it means they don't just have the potential; they have the capability to do it, and they have done it. So for me, really, sorry,
There was
I
one
cannot.
person where anytime I brought up their name to Chumbe, she would just be like, And so I knew to never continue that conversation. Like she was just be like,
Oh,
well, bana. Like it was never like, and for someone that you can talk to about everything and you can open up to, and then so they suffer all the time. Like she's one of those people where consistently, it doesn't matter what I'm talking about. The minute I like it, it doesn't matter how dumb it is. Like even with my little relationships, my my Rihanna's and all of that, she'll engage it. She'll listen. She'll give me the power, everything I need. Where I'm like, I just love you so much. But certain people, I mention them. She's like,
okay.
And to end the conversation.
And I think that's a good way to end this conversation.
Yes. When you see second,
I've enjoyed this so
but
much.
I think this is a great vulnerability exercise even for me.
Is.
But so we're moving on to our favorite segment, Musso of the week. Gone?
Okay. So okay. You don't need a drum roll. Take it back. The heat is heating us. So anyway, our Musso of the week. I think this week we're going to throw it back to you people. Who have you loved? Who have you loved so much? And
remember, it is Musso. Before you come and be talking about your men.
Your men, please. No boys allowed.
Agnyom Usman.
Agnyom Usman.
Agnyom Papis.
Agnyom Muhammad Bailen, please, Who have you loved and who has loved you back and given you grace and been patient with you and just cared for you? Shown you what it is to be loved. Who is that woman in your life or that non-binary person in your life? Who are they? Please add them, tag them, show them some love, show them how much you appreciate them. And, for us, it is, we're sending it back to them, to ourselves, These
love you guys.
These little people here.
You.
Yes. They've shown me what love is.
Love, be vulnerable and tell us you love us.
You people that just were eyeing me here, I don't claim you.
So, you should know what dama la bëgg ci sama xol.
Dama la bëgg ci sama xol. Yaay sama amul bàyyi. Soo ko xamee, soo ko xamulit. Boo amul woon man ma wuti la. Man yaa ma gënal li ma am, baby.
Anyways, like Monet has said, tell us the people that you love, but also people who've just inspired you around what love looks like and loving. Thank you all so much. It's really sad that we're getting to the end of this season.
Yo.
Like we said, so this is like our second to last episode. The next episode is our finale, and I'm starting to miss this, I'm starting to miss this. But thank you all so much. It's 47 countries where people are waking up and playing Musso. And that's a really, really amazing thing for us. All three of us just sitting here, do nonsense with it, and you all are just listening to us and loving it. Send us your questions, send us your feedback, let us know who your Musso is, what have your crushes look like, what are your love languages, just all of the things that we've discussed on this podcast. Let us know what your thoughts are. We'll be waiting to hear from you.
And
spell it.
As usual, you know where to find us. Musso Podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. At MUSSOPODCAST, and of course we're waiting for your thoughts, your comments, your feedback. You know where to send it. #MUSSOPOD.
We would like to thank the Right Click crew, aka Classic, and I guess thank you to the Left Click crew, aka Ibu and the Isotus.
Yeah.
But
Ibu to the left.
Yeah, it was an op now, sadly. But that's what happens. Again, all relationships change.
Yeah.
The love has transformed. His allegiances lie elsewhere now. But thank you so much to everyone who helps us make this podcast a reality. We know how hard you work, especially shout out also to my brother Papis, a man that I really love.
He's in the middle click.
Papis found friend mom. But thank you so much. Papis has he has designed every single material that we've put out from the beginning until now, and he knows we're broke, so he's never once attempted to charge us, and we appreciate the love. He truly is. And again, just thank you so much to everyone that's made this reality. I can't believe this is the second to last episode before the end of this first season, which was great and extremely memorable. And as always, please send us your comments and your feedback, and let us know how we can make next season even more enjoyable and better for all of you.
What can we change?
Maybe change Jama or Ngone. But
You two are fired anyways. You two are fired. But we have the posters on our social media platforms. So for example, on the Anchor platform, there's an opportunity for you to do a voice note. So if you want to do a voice note that we can also include in the final episode, please do that. We would really, really love that. But also just send us emails, send us DMs, send us a comment, whatever it is. Send us messages privately as well if
Tell
that's
us
how
you
you feel
love us.
comfortable. Don't force the love
we need
on.
some love.
I
Don't
need
force the
love,
love
you
from the
guys.
people.
Tell
we
me
need,
you love
we need
me.
financial love.
Anyways, we're out of here.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.